You know that there's a way that you can tell with certainty whether or not you're pricing your Airbnb correctly? I'm going to introduce you to that method today. It's going to be in your professional hosting dashboard. We're going to explore 3 metrics, which is going to tell me, if we were on a consultation call, whether you could make more money with your property and how. I'll get in the second half of the video about my specific pricing strategy. I will introduce it to you. If you find it valuable, at the end of the video, I'm going to suggest another video where you go next, where we talk entirely about my pricing strategy, which helps me get 2 to 4 times the amount of revenue on the same exact property. When I buy a property, it's always an existing STR, so I know exactly what they were making and of course what I'm making. We need 2 things working together to know that our pricing strategy is optimal. That is your nightly rate and your occupancy, right? If you have a high nightly rate but a low occupancy, that's not optimal. If you have a high occupancy but a low nightly rate, that's also not optimal. In that second scenario, your BLT is going to be higher than your competition. So with a third metric we need to look at is that our BLT is lower than our competition. If the BLT, which is booking lead time, if that is not lower than the competition, even if our nightly rate and our occupancy is higher than our competition, those 2 metrics could be higher. So let's jump into my dashboard. And by the way, while I do that, let me explain to you, if you don't know what a BLT is. That represents when the average guest books, how many days in advance. That number is essential to my pricing strategy. If your dashboard does not look like this, by the way, your professional hosting dashboard, you need to turn it on. I'm going to tell you how to do that below in the pinned comment. Now go over to conversion and then let's start with the booking lead time, okay? If someone tells me, which happens often, my booking lead time is 60 days and my market is 30, why would that be? Why do we not want that? Why would a guest book an Airbnb twice as far in advance when all the supply, all the Airbnbs are still available? It's not exactly about pricing, it's about the value. The value that FPG is getting in this place, doesn't mean it's the cheapest listing, but they're getting the most value for the price. So what that means, in other words, is that host is leaving money on the table. They can raise their price. I'm going to show you how to do that at the end of this video, so I want you to stick with me, but pay attention right now while we go over the stats. If any of this does not make sense, ask me in the comments. I respond to every thoughtful comment, and I love those long comments. You want to select a listing, that's best practice. Even if you have just one listing, select it. Then go to over time and switch to similar listings. Now, so we can already see my booking lead time is way below the competition. That's a sign if, again, your nightly rate, which we'll look at in a moment, and your occupancy is above the market average. Now, I want to go 3 months though. All right, so it says here mine is 22 days lower. So mine's 10 days. Typically, the average is about 30 days in this market. So let's now go to, okay, that's great. So now what we want to go to is, let's look at the nightly rate. Okay, I still have that same listing selected, and you can see my nightly rate isn't just a little bit above the competition, it's a lot, 126. If I go back 3 months, we're still way higher, okay? Now that's fine. That's fine that I have a high nightly rate, but it's only fine. I only know that I'm optimally pricing my listing if my occupancy is also market best. So Airbnb shows that. Let's do occupancy rate. Let's go back 2 months. Now keep in mind, depending on how many direct bookings you're getting, I'm getting maybe about 20% direct bookings, 20%. All right, so my occupancy is 26% higher than local competition, okay? My occupancy is 83.7 here. With the direct bookings, it comes up to about 95%. Even without the direct bookings, I'm still higher than the competition in terms of occupancy. So I know that my pricing is optimal. Does that make sense? Okay, this is one of the most important videos I've ever made because pricing gives you the most leverage. I made another video where I explained how did I get the Belmonte penthouse, the first Airbnb I bought, up from $45,000, what that property manager was doing, to $160,000, which is what I'm making. A lot of that difference there was due to the pricing. So now I want to get into my pricing strategy. Now, if you're not feeling confident or comfortable about your pricing, you have questions about, should I be doing that? Should I be doing this? That means you're probably not optimally pricing because you're not using my strategy. Because those who are using my strategy, we don't have questions. We know exactly if I should raise or lower my pricing. Now, the good news is I'm gonna clear up all those doubts right now. If not, again, comment. This information is free, this video is free. Subscribing is also free. So here we go, my pricing strategy. It's a two-step pricing strategy, okay? Step one is what you do until you feel comfortable with the following. Minimum price, got a video on that. Base price, your weekly pricing routine, your BLT, which we went over, and your booking targets, which is based on your BLT. All of this stuff is gonna be in the video that I recommend at the end of this current video, okay? So once we get familiar with that, how we're boosting up and down potentially our base price every week. And by the way, pricing tools, they're not set it and forget it. A lot of people still in 2025 are making this very rookie mistake. If you think that connecting to a dynamic pricing tool, I use Price Labs, that's the end, you connect and that's the end, you're wrong. You are not pricing optimally, you are leaving a lot of money on the table, you are not going to see your occupancy and nightly rate up that high. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that with my pricing strategy, once you master it, it's gonna take 30 seconds per week per listing. You go in, you look at a couple things, you maybe change something, you usually don't, and that's that. Now, once you're familiar with these concepts, then we move on to step two, which is customizations. Step one is the basic, step two is advanced. Customizations, so the 80% is with step one, is with the base price and the minimum price and all those things. Step two, the customizations, is where you optimize at the margins, at the edges. Now, when I say customization, I want you to think booking trend. When you're looking in your calendar in the future and you see something that you don't like, you get that feeling, I know I'm not gonna get that booked. Okay, that's a booking trend. Let me give you an example. You're getting bookings around your booking lead time, 30 days in advance, 20, 40 days in advance, but you're getting a lot of days passing by, low demand days, unbooked. And you get that feeling, man, 7 days out, 10 days out, I know I'm not gonna get this booked. Man, I know I gotta lower the price to my minimum because I'm not gonna get this booked. That's a booking trend that you want to reverse. And we reverse booking trends with customizations. Okay, some of the best customizations that I like on Price Labs is the last minute gradual discount. If you have more than a one night minimum, I love the orphan night minimums. And then you can also do a plus or minus % to the price on those orphan days. For example, if you have a 3-night minimum, but there's a gap of only 2 nights, you then say that and only that gap is available to be booked at 10% discount or at 20% premium. And the other one I really like is called adjacent factor. And what that means is, let's picture you have 7 days open. All 7 days, Monday to Sunday is open. As soon as you get a booking, whether that's a Friday to a Sunday, a Saturday to a Wednesday, that decreases the likelihood you're gonna get a full calendar, 100%. Why? Because if you have open calendar, anyone can book. They can book any days, 100% of the days, check in and check out, and you're good. But once you get one reservation, even if it's a nice reservation like a Friday to a Sunday or Friday to a Monday, now a future guest has to check in on that checkout day. That lowers the pool of FPGs, I say. It lowers your demand. And when your demand is lower, then your price also has to be lower. That's supply and demand economics. Okay? So if someone is checking out on Sunday, now in the past, you could have had a check-in on Saturday to Monday. But now you can only have a check-in on Sunday. Does that make sense? So we need to lower that price for Sunday. And that's what the adjacent factor does. I've created a secret weapon for my viewers. It is my best tips and tricks delivered to you via email once a week. And once you stack enough of these optimizations onto each other, your Airbnb anxiety disappears. You're making the money now. If you don't want to give me your email, then just go over to my Instagram and drop me a message with your Airbnb URL. And I'll look at it and I'll tell you 1 or 2 optimizations that I see, the biggest things you can do for improvement. Now, careful, because these optimizations are very powerful, especially the pricing. Don't go raising your prices too high too soon.